This is JP Bang Music.
Suck it up, boy. You know. Suck it up, boy. You know.
Welcome everybody to Straight from the Horse's Mouth, where we cut out the middleman and go directly to the source for information. We want to be giving you the power of no. Today we had a special guest, Lamont Butler. We're going to bring him on in a minute, but I have to give a couple of shout outs. Shout outs to number one team, No Sleep, my man James Hicks. Definitely shout out to, not my sponsor, but definitely a good friend, Dr. Amy Cooch, and her drink, Sly. If you want to order some Sly, it's definitely, the promo code is Team No Sleep. I have to give a shout out to this thing because it's definitely a really good energy drink. It's all natural, and it also doesn't cause brain fog, man. No sugar in there. It's a really great product. I really endorse it. She believes in my vision, and I believe in hers. So definitely check out Sly. Look it up on the internet and Google, man, and order you some. I like the mango flavor myself. Also want to give a shout out to my man Jay Lee out in Southwest Minnesota State, joining us in that blizzard. I appreciate you, brother. And I want to also give condolences to Marcus Macon, a player in Palo Verde. He's going through a little rough time with a family situation, unfortunately a death, and our prayers and our hearts are with him. I love that young man. But with no further ado, I want to bring out Lamont Butler. And I'm looking to the side of it because I have my notes written down, and I want to make sure I hit everything tonight. But I want to give an introduction to Lamont Butler, the defensive lineman coach at Norfolk State University in Virginia. And this young man, I shouldn't say young man, but this man has been, I've known him for like the last 15 years. I've seen him go through the San Diego ranks of coaching and go out there in the world and dominate and do very good things at the Division III level, at the NAI level as a head coach. And now he's at Norfolk, Virginia, making big news and big noise. And I know he's going to do really, really well there. I want to bring out Lamont Butler to the team. I'm sorry, not to Team No Sleep, but just Straight from the Horse's Mouth. Excuse me.
Appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Getting situated out in Virginia, just trying to get ready for spring ball and do a little bit of recruiting and everything. So that's about it.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Norfolk State, like where you're located and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, so Norfolk State, we're located in Norfolk, Virginia. So if you think about, there's three cities that are, kind of in the proximity. It's Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. So, campus is about 20 minutes from the beach. So I've been here for a month now. Coach Odoms, he's our head coach. He just got here. This will be his third season, and he was the head coach at Southern University before that. Won a couple SWAC championships, I believe, and then he came over here, to try to rebuild the program, and so we're kind of in the process of doing that right now. Our guys are going through strength and conditioning. As coaches, we're doing self-scout from the season, and then, just working on getting ready for spring ball here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. What's the dynamic now? You've been pretty much at every level coaching. What's the difference between where you've been and now being at the HBCU?
HBCU is a little, it's a little different in terms of, process, I would say. Obviously, there's more of us, that's around. For me, predominantly, I've been at PWIs, and so, being at an HBCU and being around, more people that look like me, especially in the, administration and things like that. That's kind of been a cool point, to see that type of thing. And then, just interacting with the different types of student athletes. And, you see student athletes from, majority of them, I would say, are from, the coast here. But, them interacting and, being in a situation or in a culture and community that's a majority of us. So that's been, kind of cool to see. And then, obviously, FCS football, Division I football. So that's been a cool part about it. And just seeing the differences in terms of how recruiting is. And, obviously up here, we got, limits on, when we can contact guys or when we can be out on the road and things like that. As opposed to, being at the D3, NAIA level, where we've been at we're recruiting 24/7, 365 basically. So that's been kind of a change. I know like in the past and around this time of year, I'd still be recruiting where, right now, we're doing a little bit of recruiting, just trying to get, our last few bit of guys, but then majority of it is spent on, self scout and then prepping for spring ball. So that's been the
Yeah.
biggest difference, I think.
I just want a question before we dig into everything, but let's talk about the social aspect from being on the East Coast there, then coming from the
Hmm.
West Coast, right? Like,
Yeah.
how is that interaction and how is that dynamic different, from coast to coast?
Yeah. I mean, it's, You know, I would say, and I'm from San Diego, so, I think the similarities there would be the beach, right? So again, our campus is 20 minutes from the beach, so it kind of reminds you that. I think the biggest thing for me, having to think about, if I'm driving or anything like that, in California, the beach, you got to go west. Out here, if you want to go to the beach, you go east. So, that was a little confusing for me at first, but then you get that there, and then I would say there's a lot more in terms of rural areas where you might get some country and
Hmm.
things like that if you're driving an hour west or north or south where out in California you're not going to get that as much. You'll get more city driving an hour 2 hours north. So
Hmm.
there's a little bit more city, and then on the East Coast everything is closer together. So in California, and most people they think this when they think about San Francisco, they think LA, San Diego, and San Francisco are right next to each other, where,
Yeah,
San Diego is 8 hours from San Francisco. And so,
yeah.
we're here, I can be in, DC in 3, 4 hours, or I can be in North Carolina in 3 hours, as
Hmm.
opposed to if I drive 3 hours in California from San Diego, I'm going to be not in the middle of nowhere, but, I'm going to be I'm going to be outside of a city,
Yeah, you're
so.
gonna be in Turlock. You're gonna be in Turlock. That's where you're gonna be
Yeah,
at.
yep. I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to disrespect nobody.
No, no, no. You'll be in Turlock and Tulare, man. I feel you. I
Yeah,
understand. Yeah, and that's the one experience when I was on the East Coast as well. You're right. Everything is very very close together, jumbo. It's amazing how you can be where you're in Virginia and you can be in Atlanta like the same drive as you in San Francisco. You would be already in
yep,
Atlanta or on your way to
hmm,
Florida within 8 hours,
yeah,
which is pretty cool. And those are all different places, right? Different territories, different dynamics, different social climates, everything. When you go from state to state and city to city on the East Coast,
right,
which is
yep.
pretty cool. Which is pretty cool. All right, let's jump into it, man. Going into that now, I want to understand your perspective of the California player in the Midwest and East Coast because I know I believe there's some biasness there, honestly. And me
Hmm.
talking to other coaches, we love California, and I'm gonna tell you what I've heard. We love California kids as far as being athletic, but
Hmm.
one, we think they're a little soft because they always want to run home when things get a little bit tough or things don't go their way. Uh,
Hmm.
they're always complaining or crying about something when they come here, um, and they're non-sociable. They don't socialize or integrate at all very fast. They're pretty much
Hmm.
reserved while they're here, trying to figure out the law of the land, and they feel that sometimes hurts the team and the dynamic. And that's kids that's coming from California mainly, and I'm talking about California, Nevada, and Phoenix. Phoenix not so much. They
Hmm.
they, they think they acclimate pretty well, but definitely California, Las Vegas. What is the perception there? Why is that negative perception there, in your opinion?
I think one. I mean, obviously the stereotypes are going to be fulfilled. Um, I do think going playing in the Midwest or playing out to the East Coast, you're further from home, and so you don't necessarily have those safety nets there. So that can make some people uncomfortable. And then obviously you got the difference in weather when you're talking about California or maybe even a Phoenix, right? Where the weather is going to be a little bit colder than it would be in their regular climate. And so I think with all of those jumbled in with acclimating in the school, being far away from home, trying to figure out college football, those can definitely have an impact on student athletes. And I think in this generation or in this day and age, it's a little bit a little bit different in terms of sticking things out. Now more so guys are able to make more decisions based on, you got the transfer portal and
Mhm.
things like that, where guys are now transferring more often, just because they do have that option now, where as in the past, it wasn't necessarily that. And so I think, when you talk about the perception of California players or West Coast players, I think one of the things that, the talent is never the
Yeah.
question when they talk about, okay, do we want a California guy? It's always about, how are they going to acclimate, to the weather?
Mhm.
How are they going to acclimate being so far away from home? And again, that's one thing that, in recruiting that we've talked about is, if a kid is going to pass up, all these different schools just to come here, then, not what's really going on, but, there's a
Mhm.
lot of different options that he would have to pass up before he got here. And so, why would, we got to figure out why that is.
That that's
And, that kind of
that's
has
interesting.
a,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting you say that because I'm trying to figure out a way. How do we dissolve or eliminate that perception? Is it that kids need to come visit the campus first? Do they need to
Hmm.
get on you guys' recruiting path earlier to build that relationship with you? Because as we know, let's be honest on this whole thing. We don't have a lot of schools in California, and there's a
Right.
lot of
Yep.
Division 1, FCS, Division 2 talent that is going to be left on the table because we don't have those options here, and that's period on the
Right.
West Coast at all. Those options are only in the Midwest and on the East Coast, and the coachings in those areas are really reserved about pulling the California kid. They have a
Hmm.
reservation because, like you said, them becoming acclimated. How do we bury that gap? Because obviously schools don't seem like they're going to be opening more schools here to play football here, no time in the near
Right.
future. So, and kids really want to play. They really want to take that next step. But when you have that preconception, it's easy. It's easier for, and this is what I've heard. It's easier for them to take a kid that's even less talented football wise, but they know he'll acclimate to the team, no problem, or the weather or the
Hmm.
climate of the school, no problem. So they'd rather take a chance on that kid more so than a kid from the West Coast because of the fear of the acclimation, and they may lose out on him. And to me, I think that's a cultural thing within the school. You got to build a culture within the school or build an environment in the school to be welcoming and welcoming from a West Coast player instead of having a preconception. I mean, am I off or what's your stand on that?
It's a two-way street. And I think when they talk about, getting kids from California and them acclimating and things like that, one the big word in college football is retention, right?
Yes.
And so
Mm-hmm.
if I can't get a kid to stay all 4 years, right, that's a problem. So, if I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
a kid to come in for one semester and then he leaves right after that first semester, he goes through the season, but then he leaves, that's an issue for, for schools. And if you're talking about, administratively, right? So,
Yeah.
you think about, the school, NAI, D2, D3, where not everyone's on a full ride, where, those are tuition dollars that are walking out of the door. And
Yeah.
so
Eh,
as
let me,
coaches,
let me pause on that. That's great.
yep,
That's I like that point. But we already know money's always going to be an issue, right? Money will be an issue on both
right, yeah,
sides.
yeah, yeah.
Money's going to be an issue on both sides. I'm talking about what about the dynamic of the culture? Because I feel there's some great schools in the Midwest that are retaining West Coast talent,
Hmm.
and I'll give a
Yeah,
shout. Black Hill State doing a great job. Adams State
yep.
doing a great job. Western State doing a great job. They get these, and
Hmm.
those are Division 2 programs that people don't know. They're really retaining kids really well. Weber State does a great job on the FCS level retaining California kids.
Yep.
Uh, even if you go a little bit further, there's a couple more schools that do a really, really good job. But I know they built a dynamic culture to help
Hmm.
West Coast kids get acclimated. Other schools I've seen, it's either one or the other. Either you building the culture and you're welcoming it, or you're like, I'm not messing with it at all. I don't want to deal with it. Unless you're
Right.
maybe a JC kid. They don't want to deal with these kids coming in 4 years because I think when it comes to retention, you have to be able to be, it's got to be a pull and tug, right? You know, this kid's coming from a different environment. Let's make it happen. And the reason why I'm really passionate about it because on the opposite end, we welcome, right? If you come from New York and you come here to go to school and you play ball or whatever, they build a culture that makes sure you stay. And I know that from when I
Hmm.
played, and I know that from other kids that played. When kids who came from out of state, them go to Azusa or go to these other programs, even go to Cal Poly, they stay. More of them stay than more of them leave. And there is that preconceived notion about, oh, they're not going to get into the environment. Even though California's pretty well, it's pretty easy to get adjusted to. But we don't
Right.
have the same reservations like they do in the Midwest and there. And we
Hmm.
know when you have no other options, you do whatever, right? If you have no
Right.
other options to play Division II football, you're going to go wherever to play Division II football because that's your only option. But there's a block, there's that wall there that's been coming up. I don't want to
Hmm.
deal with California kids because, like I said, the acclimation thing, they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with whatever the preconceived baggage that comes with having a California kid here. And I'm
Right.
saying it's you're right. It's a two-way street. It's the school's fault for not helping build a culture or build a welcoming culture and helping the kid
Hmm.
get adjusted. And it's the California kid that has to be receptive to kind of the different changes that's coming on from California,
Right. And you didn't let me
right?
finish my point when I
Oh, I'm
but
sorry, brother man. I'm
you
sorry.
you cut me off
I
with
get
the
fired up.
tuition
Yeah,
dollars. I was
yeah.
just saying I wasn't saying the finance like the financial piece. Like obviously that's going to be an issue with all kids. I
Mm-hmm.
was saying, kids leaving a school after one semester financially that hurts a school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easier to retain a kid and keep them there than having to go out and recruit a whole nother kid, right? And
Correct.
so, but what I was saying with that, and you talk about retention and everything like that, and you already hit on it was, one, the school, obviously they have to have a welcoming culture, for those kids. But then two, I think, and this is where majority of it happens is those kids have to be receptive to the differences, right? We're spoiled, we were spoiled in California, right? You got the
Mm-hmm.
weather, you got the beach, everybody wants to be in California, right? And so, I think when you go outside of California, it's gonna be different, right? You're gonna
Yeah.
have there's gonna be an adjustment. There's gonna be a different way of life. But I think that's what makes college unique is you can pull kids from all different types of areas, and you guys might not have had a similar upbringing, but there's going to be elements of your upbringing that are going to be the same, and that's what makes those connections with those guys. And
Mm-hmm.
so the California kid just has to be receptive to that. When he's talking about going out of state to school. And I think
Mm-hmm.
another thing that would help is those kids going and visiting those schools.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
think a hard part would be sometimes those schools are far, flights are expensive, and so it might be hard to get out there. But if you really, really want to go to that school, I think most of the time when California kids go out of state to school, they go sight unseen sometimes. And so,
Yes. Yep.
and when they do go sight unseen, their expectation isn't met. And again, it's not the school's fault, it's not the players' fault, but they didn't get to see what they needed to see, and it's different seeing something on video or watching a video online, doing something over Zoom, than actually being on campus around the players and being able to see the entire dynamic, being able to see the city that you're going to be in. Because again, it's a
Mm-hmm.
4 to 5 year decision where okay, this is where I'm going to be living for the next 4 to 5 years. Can I do that? And I think that if they're able to get out there and they're able to see that, then that would help with the perception of California kids. Because again, most of them when they do go to places, they're going sight unseen where they haven't visited, and then when they do that, now their expectation isn't met because now they have a specific
Mm-hmm.
expectation in their head or in their mind that they've made up just because they've seen it online or they might have watched a video of
Yeah.
campus or something
Yeah.
like that, and
Yeah.
then when they get there, it's nothing of what they had envisioned from what they saw, right? And so
Absolutely.
you definitely, I think, anywhere you're going to choose to go, I think you definitely got to get out there, in the city, on campus, get around the coaches, get around the players, and then also, asking the coaches the hard questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about, scholarship football. The question you want to ask is my offer committable? Because
Yep.
there's
Yep.
schools that you're going to get a whole bunch of offers out,
Yep.
but they can only sign so many people. And so you want to know, hey, if I commit right now, is this offer committable? And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. That's the nature of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you can't be afraid to ask those hard questions. But then you're talking about the perception of everything. Get out to the schools, get to know the staff, get to know the players,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that would help as well. Because
Yeah.
once
I'm
they,
one. Yeah, I'm 100%
So
agreeing with you. I think it's very
yeah.
important for these kids to figure out a way to bite the bullet and go visit the campus. And they need to understand every campus doesn't have the budget to fly you out. They don't.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
in the athletic dollars. So if they don't
Yep.
have that budget dollars to fly you out, you need to figure out a way to go ahead and get out there, go visit the campus, go interact, go see if that's a great place for you to fit. And then also that helps establish, I think, that trust within that coach. If you're willing to
Yep.
sacrifice your own dollars to come visit, then maybe you're a person that we definitely need to look into about actively recruiting you and being a part and you being a part of our team and whatnot, growing with our program. I think you
Yep.
hit on a good point. And I want you to explain it for your side. I know what it means, but I want the audience to know. Difference between committable and non-committable offers.
hmm So committable means,
Explain.
yeah, committable, they're taking you right now. So if you say, I'm committing, I want to commit to this school, they're gonna lock you in. A non-committable offer is basically a holding spot. When you think about Division 1 schools, there's gonna be a lot of committable offers, but then there's gonna be some that are not committable where, they're gonna offer you just to keep that seat warm, just to, keep you there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, there's either some stuff they want to continue to look at to make sure that you're the guy that they want. And then, I think at the, Division 3, obviously there's no scholarship money there. Once you get accepted in the school, you're good to go. But the coach does have the opportunity or the choice to say if he wants you on that team or not. And
Yep.
so, and then you think about D2 NAIA, again, they're working kind of the same mold as Division 3, but they have athletic money to give, and it all works off of a discount rate. And so, but I know Division 2, they have a way where they can give, some fools, NAI, they have that same type of capability. But I would say if those schools are offering you, then they really want you, right? I don't think there's going to be too many that are giving out non-committable offers at that level. So,
Yes,
but
I
a
agree.
committable,
Yep.
yeah, committable offer, you're guaranteed to get a national letter of intent or an NLI, and then a non-committable one. I guarantee if you ask, hey coach, is this offer committable? And if it's not committable, you're going to get a hey, right now we want to make sure we got everything we need from you. Got a few more things that you got to do. We'll let you know what those things are.
Mm-hmm.
If it's committable, they'll take the commitment right then and there. And again, on the recruiting side and on the college coach side, it's you're dealing with 8, 17 sometimes, and then 18-year-olds, where their minds can fluctuate or change at the drop of a hat. And you've seen it where on signing day there's been some guys who flip at the very
Mm-hmm.
last moment. And so
Yep.
that's the reason why a lot of offers go out. And some people they're upset that schools are offering a lot of guys, and you'll see some schools who got 300 offers but only 25 spots. Well, some of those guys that they've offered, they
Mm-hmm.
haven't, they might have committed to them, but then at the last second, they're going to pull out, and so they got to be prepared for that. And then also, it's sometimes there'll be schools where they have, let's say they're taking 3 wide receivers, where they're going to offer the top 10 or top 15 in their group, and the first 3 that accept, are
Yep.
going to get the spot. And so, sometimes recruits they can hurt themselves because they wait too long.
Absolutely. I think also in that process, and I'm not a big fan of non-committable offers because it kind of gives a false pretense, especially on the 17,
Mhm.
18-year-old. They don't understand it. But I believe uh, um, the transparency is lost because I don't think a lot of coaches take the time to explain what the offer is. They say they
Yeah.
offer you, the excitement goes, the kids tweeting everything, but then
hmm
it's not. They don't understand that it's a non-committable offer or it's a committable offer. They're kind of just
hmm
going off the whim, and I don't know if that's the coach's responsibility. Well, it is coach's responsibility. I think that just to have that transparency to make that kid understand, hey, we want you, but if this guy commits before you, then we're going to take that guy because we have him
Right.
ranked a little bit higher than you. And yeah, it will sting the kid. It'll sting, obviously. But I think that sets the kid up to say, oh, I need to keep shopping myself around. And I know coaches don't want to hear that because they want to make sure the
hmm
kid is in their back pocket just in case things happen. But
Yep.
at that point, kids got to do what's best for themselves. And even to add on to that, I believe there's a loss in etiquette with young men communicating with coaches. Like you said, they don't know how to ask those questions. They haven't been prepared to talk to coaches and ask them the hard questions about, am I going to get a trip out there? Am I going to get an opportunity to fly out there? Or do I need to fly out there on my own? Is it a committable or non-committable offer? Those types of things. Coach, where I'll be living if I do come there? If I do come out there, would I increase my chances of being offered? All those questions these kids that I've seen don't have the aptitude to ask those questions. And parents don't either. They don't have the power of no. They don't understand what they're supposed to do. So there's an etiquette part that's lost in there. You obviously get it from experience, right? You get it from experience. First kid goes through it. The second kid, you know what to ask. So, but I mean, there's a lot of first generation kids that are going to college and getting these opportunities. There's that etiquette, and they need to ask somebody to find out. I would encourage every kid out there, find someone that went to school, that's going to school, and ask them, what question should I ask a coach? What question should I talk to a coach? Because the things we're talking about could be summarized and be diffused. The misconception can be diffused with a few questions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The transparency piece that you talked about, and I think that's going to vary from coach to coach, right? Where, for me, I've always been on the side of, telling the kid exactly, this is exactly what it is, right? It's either a committable offer, right? Walk on, whatever it is. And that's kind of how we go about it, but then there's going to be some where, again, and this is the part that I'm, in our profession, it's like, man, that's kind of tough where, you're telling the kid this, but you're withholding a little bit of that information, just because it could eventually help you out later on, from withholding that information where, this kid, let's say Norfolk State was this kid's dream school, and I tell him he has an offer, but I don't tell him, hey, it's a non-committable offer. Well, he's going to be excited. He's going to tweet it. He's going to tweet about it. He's going to know he has this offer. But then, let's fast forward after, 2 months into his senior season. And, I got the guys that I wanted to, I knew I got the guys that I wanted to get, and I knew they were going to sign. Well, now his offer is null and void. Just because he didn't ask the question, hey, is my offer committable? And I would encourage guys, the question to ask, if you do get an offer is, hey, coach, is this offer committable? And, that will tell you a lot about, kind of where you're at on their board.
Yes. Yep. I'm 100% agreement with you. That kind of gives you where where you stand with that team, whether you're a priority or not, and keep an eye on the watch list of the other guys who are recruited to see if you're going to bump up or move down to see where you're at. I also think a lost cause in the etiquette as well as kids keeping constant communication with coaches, not irritating and bugging them, but keeping constant communication. Send a text here and there. Send an email to the coach, hey, coach, how everything is going. Just wonder what my status is on the recruiting process. I'm looking forward to visiting the campus. Stuff like that. Little notes like that, I don't think kids don't understand it goes a long way in the recruiting process. And parents don't understand it goes a long way, but they need to do that because recruiting, let's be honest, is all about relations, right? Skill set and the way you play is great, but if you can build a relationship with a coach, they'll take the time they know they can develop into that person they want you to be. So I think relations is something that's really, really important, and that's another kind of loss in transparency as well. We don't take the. I think I'm not saying coaches, players don't take the time to build that relationship. Coaches are reaching out, doing their thing, tweeting, doing this, trying to get the kids on Twitter, trying to have a conversation with them, and kids are not taking the time to build that relationship with coaches. You're not taking the time to research that coach and read that coach's bio. You're not taking the time to to tweet, to text that coach, every once a week or every other week just to see how he's doing and make sure everything's okay. Make sure everything is good in your status of recruiting. Because I know if it's a non-committed offer and there wasn't committed in front, if you're keeping constant communication with this coach, eventually at some point he'll tell you. He'll be like, you know what? I really like you a lot. You're a great kid, but we're going to go with someone else in this direction. And I need you to know that so you can shop yourself more. Every coach I've ever talked to said, we no problem in doing that. But then again, we still got to keep that hook on kids when kids fall off. And I understand that part. It's kind of nature of the beast. Great conversation, Coach. Let's pivot to another topic. How damaging has the portal been to junior college and high school kids, in your opinion?
Damaging. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely been damaging. And I think one of the big things when you talk about the portal is you got to think about there's going to be a trickle down effect from FBS all the way
Mm-hmm.
down, to the NAIA level where, the FBS, they're obviously the cream of the crop, they're just going to be swapping players, right? You're going to
Yeah.
get Power Five players, you're going to go to Power Five schools, unless there's a unique situation, I think, what was it, 3 years ago, when Dion came to the HBCU
Mm-hmm.
level, FCS, he went to Jackson State. And he kind of changed the perception and the outlook of HBCUs. You saw more FBS players, going down to the HBCU level and
Mm-hmm.
playing there, right? Um, so the FBS schools, they're just gonna, the players are just gonna move around within that FBS level. You'll get some that go down to the group of five. You'll also get some of the group of five that go up to that Power Five level. So there's gonna be a difference there. Even for us, FCS level, we're looking for the Power Five guys that are coming down,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a FCS guy that, and to go back along the lines of relationships, right? Where there could have been a kid that I was recruiting who, I might have lost at a Power Five level or to another school at the FCS level. Well, now I had a good relationship with that kid throughout recruiting, and now he's not comfortable or not happy at the school that he's at. That's where that relationship kicks in,
Mm-hmm.
and then now I can come back and get that kid later on, down the road. And so, with the transfer portal, I think that's one of the things that's definitely going to be hurting high schools and junior colleges, just because, if I can get a kid right now who's already acclimated to Division One football or college football, and they've been there, they've done that, why not take them over a high school kid who I might not necessarily know, at what point in time they're going to produce for me.
Yeah.
And I think before the transfer portal and back in the day, even with red shirting and things like that, because now you're even seeing, even with you got the red shirt rule, but you're seeing a lack of red shirts even staying at the
Mm-hmm.
schools that they red shirted at, just because now, they want to go and play where, who was it? I think it was Tyrann Mathieu. I think he came out and said the other day, he didn't like the transfer portal, things like that. He had to sit behind Patrick Peterson and somebody, there's another corner at LSU,
Mm-hmm.
who, it made him a better player because he had to grind it out, right?
Yep.
Or even Mac Jones at Alabama, where he sat behind Jalen Hurts, behind Tua,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got his turn when it was his time. And so, um, I think with the transfer portal now, high school kids are definitely going to get overlooked unless you're one of the, top recruits in the country. It's definitely going to be hard to get a spot just because of the transfer portal. Where, let's say I do have a senior graduating, I can go into the portal and get his replacement for a guy who's actually produced at the Division One level,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to getting a guy who now is going to take a little bit more time to develop or something like that. And then, junior college, right? The transfer
Mm-hmm.
portal is what junior college would have been to FBS, FCS, Division Two,
Yep.
those types of schools. That's what junior college was to, the Division One schools, was what the transfer portal is now. And so I think, being a junior college kid, it's going to be really really hard just because, you're going into your junior year already,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're gonna get guys from the portal, as opposed to, okay, try to get this guy, unless you were a guy that was highly recruited, you didn't have the grades, and you had to go to junior college to get that right. There's different circumstances, but for a majority of them, it's gonna, the story of a guy going junior college, developing into a prospect after that 1 or 2 years, that's gonna be a little light
Hard.
now, just
Yeah.
because, just because of the transfer portal.
Yeah. I'm 100,000% agreeable with you. I think the echo is amongst Division One that I heard is like most schools are not taking no more than 3 to 5 high school kids. Period.
Hmm.
That's the recruiting point right there. We're gonna get 5 high school kids. The rest we're going in the portal. We're gonna go get. As far as junior college kids, it's been 50-50 split where they're gonna continue to recruit junior college or not. And most of them are saying they're on the no side. We're not recruiting junior college, and this is not a knock on JC. It's just because of the process of bringing a junior college kid on to a school is a lot more difficult than any other the process because they have to have 60 transferable units. Doesn't care about your AA. I hate when kids say, "Oh, I got my AA." Well, you got 60 transferable units. That's the problem. And if they don't, there's a problem right there. Also, whatever history they come with, were there academic problem at school? Were there these certain things? So I know bringing junior college kids over is a lot more difficult process where a lot of schools are just saying we're not even going to deal with it anymore. Unfortunately, right? So there's that. But let's go into now the NCAA, the new NCAA eligibility rule, which to me is a game changer. With being you only need a 2.3 in your core and at least a 2.0 graduating to be eligible to play now in the school. You don't have to sit out your first year at all. You're eligible to go to that school and play. That opens the ranks for you coaches as recruiters to now you can go get all these kids. You can get most of the kids. The issue of the grade issue that you just discussed is pretty much now eliminated. Because if you can't graduate with a 2.0 and have a 2.3 in your core, there's bigger problems than just football, obviously. Now that eliminates that. So, and I've been telling kids that stud that they would usually take you over because he had grade problems, that kid they thought they had grade problems, that's go to JC. They no longer have to pass on that kid anymore. They can go get him. They don't have to go do a program. They don't have to go to junior college anymore. They can get them acclimated in the 4-year program right now, and let's get ready to rock and roll. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think what it does is it gives those students a chance, because some of them, they do have the difficulty in school, right? And I think there's two different sides to that, right? If there's a kid that he has the ability to get it done in the classroom, and it's just an effort piece, then by all means, I mean, I don't think that kid should be able to have that opportunity because he's not taking care of business because he's capable of doing it, but he's not doing it.
Correct.
And then but then there's also the kid that he's fighting, scratching, and clawing just to get there. I think those are the ones that would deserve that chance. But then I also think I don't know how much of a and I think it's going to depend from institution to institution, just because I don't care if you're eligible for football, if you don't have the academic requirements to get into the school, it ain't gonna matter. So it's I think for schools that don't have a high academic standing to get in, it's definitely going to help them. If you're talking about like a Stanford or a Northwestern or something like that, they're not going to be looking at those kids anyway, right? It doesn't
exactly.
matter. And so it's it's a toss up. I think there'll be some who who it helps tremendously, and then there'll be some who they're not even going to be affected by it just because they're not recruiting at that at that level anyway. I think one of the things that student athletes have to understand with that is, as coaches, we want to spend time on the right guys. And so if you're a guy that you can't go to class, you can't show up to class, you can't be on time to things and things like that, they're probably not going to take a chance on you, right? Or if they do take a chance on you, you're not going to have a lot of wiggle room to make mistakes because you're in that situation. Now, if you end up getting a scholarship and you're on money and things like that, now they're going to do everything they can to get you to that point. But if you're on a partial or a walk on or something like that, now it's like, all right, I got to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, because if you're not, then that just gives them the ability to get rid of you right then and there.
Yeah, I think, me personally, I think the rule was made up, especially for the SEC in that region in there, because there's so much talent. And let's be honest, a lot of that talent, comes from these rural areas where, grades are not prevalent. They're not really pressured to do, especially when they're dominating the football in a lot of areas. Not saying everybody, but in a lot of areas where they can eliminate that trouble spot, right? I can go get this kid that's a stud, that's a 300-pound lineman that runs a 4.7, that he can come in here, that we know he's going to be a professional prospect in the next 2 or 3 years
Right.
coming out. All we got to do is keep him afloat. So it's a money move. I'll be honest with you, but I think it's a move in a good position. It's a great position to give these kids, like you said, the opportunity to be able to showcase their talent, make money for their school, get them an NIL deal if they can, and do all these different dynamic things to be able to help themselves out. Where normally they wouldn't be able to do it, they would have to go through the struggles of the rigors of JC trying to figure that out, which is another kind of like, again, another hard, difficult, frustrating process sometimes. Now they get the chance to go here, make their mids and go. And I like it, the fact that it affects all Division I schools. So just not Power 5. I think it was built for Power 5, but now it allows Tulsa's and Louisiana State and Nevada and all these schools to go get these kids they know that maybe have their trouble spots and grades to be able to go ahead and bring them on board. But again, I think the level of play has to be now is upgraded now as well. You got to be a kid that's ready to go. Like you got to be, if you're at the 2.3 level, you better be a kid that's going to be special teams first year and you playing the second year. You got to be that kid they want to develop that, because I think with the portal, it's heightened the way they're going to recruit. Even though that eligibility rules in effect. Would you agree with that?
Say it again.
I said, would you agree with the fact that the level of recruiting are going to be a lot higher?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because they got to be ready to play now.
Yep.
Either now or in the next year. It's not going to be you get the red shirt, you get the privilege of maybe not playing your first year. No, the development thing is over. Basically, they're looking for man-child when they come for that rule to get them in.
Yep.
These guys have already developed.
Come in right now. Yep,
yes,
you got to come in right now and produce.
Yes, exactly. In order to take a scholarship.
Especially at the FBS level, it's and I keep referring to the FBS level because that's where the standard of where everything trickles down from. But you think at the FBS level, right? Coaches, their jobs, they're not keeping them jobs for long. And so, if you come in and you're not producing, obviously, they're going to go out and try to find somebody who can. And that's another side of, you talk about the transfer portal where, sometimes the guys are transferring, they're transferring out maybe too early because because they're like,
we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that some more.
My fault. But that's another side, another side of it where, they need, coaches need guys to come in and produce right now because their livelihood is on the line. So,
and I think kids don't understand that as well. That based on you being that person's recruit, their job is reflected on that. That's part of their job evaluation portion. Yep. If they're bringing in a bunch of kids that can't produce or transferring out all the time or not building that relationship, you are reflected on that. That's part of your job that you could possibly be fired for because you're not bringing in the right talent in order to fit us in a winning environment. And I think kids I know kids are it's the instant gratification. It's all about me, kind of day and age, but they got to understand if you're not prepared and ready to go, then your job is on the line, especially when you're a high level recruit. If in your position, especially as you go to the higher levels, the FBS and the Power Fives, your position is definitely weighs on what you can produce with the players you bring in.
Yep.
And players don't understand that. They dogging, they obviously they're young. They make excuses why this and why that. But the bottom line is, and this is a message to players: if you're not prepared, and I think this is at any level, and it's going to get trickle down to any level. If you're not prepared to come in there and produce and work your butt off, you're going to be let go at this point. And I think the misperception that you get a scholarship, you can't be cut. That is very wrong.
Yep.
Your contract with any institution on the scholarship level is year to year based on you not messing up that contract. That means you're not getting into trouble and you're doing everything they ask you to do. It used to be that typically you would never pull the scholarship. Coaches wouldn't pull it. They'll make sure you live it up. That is not the case anymore. Coaches will pull scholarships.
It's strong encouragement. It's strong encouragement.
Yeah.
So
but if you keep messing up, they will pull it. Am I correct? They will pull your scholarship.
Yeah, and I don't think legally, I don't think they can pull it for something on the field. But if there's issues outside of campus, or you're getting into trouble or things like that, then I think that's grounds for what they can do. As far as I don't think there's any scholarship that they can pull because you're playing bad. right?
Mm.
But
I'm gonna disagree with you on that one.
they'll
I
make life
witnessed it.
hard for you.
I witnessed it though. I witnessed it. I won't say
Oh,
where I
okay.
witnessed it, but I witnessed it based on performance. The head coach pulled it, but it was a Power 5 program. It was a Power 5. They was like the kid was, but also not only his performance, but his complaining all the time, just not fitting in their environment, not being a good fit for their environment.
Right.
I saw the coach. Now there might have been some other stuff that he was going on that he was in trouble with, but at least from when I was there witnessing it, it was based on his performance in the spring game and the practices leading up to what was going on. Why they said he's no longer. And like I said, there might have been some more going on in the background that I didn't know about. But I think
Yeah, I got you.
at least from that answer point, you could pull it. Let's get into this horrible.
Okay.
Where do you see junior college football in the future? And then let me set it up. Let me tee you up real quick. I see junior college football right now as let's talk specifically about California. I see it more as a placeholder where kids think they can go there and develop really quick for 2 or 3 years, then they can go live their dream. I believe with the portal now and what we just discussed, there's no longer a demand for those players, or that demand is shrinking very small. Supply and demand is no longer a demand for that. Where does it go? Where does it go now? If there's no demand for it, and college coaches aren't going there, I think you all of a sudden start getting less participation. Start getting less participation. It costs the school more money to host it and have it than it is for it to eliminate it, just like they feel with Division II football in California. So, in your opinion, where do you think it's going? And I'll give my opinion. I think where it's going.
Yeah, I think going to because I played junior college football as well, and so going to junior college football and then transferring into D1, I think unless again we talked about those extenuating circumstances. I'm a high level recruit, and I just didn't have the grades, so I had to go to junior college for a year or a semester or something like that. I think it's gonna be a farm league for the lower level, so D2, D3, NAIA, right? And I think unless you're O line, D line, that'll be a little different because everybody wants O linemen and D linemen. At the I think at the FCS level, they'll still be taking some junior college guys at those positions, or you got to be a phenomenal athlete in the other spots for them to take you. But I think junior college football, because of the transfer portal, that what you talked about, that 2 to 3 years developing and then transferring up to a bigger school like a Division I school, I think it's going to be really, really hard now in that aspect. I think more so, junior college guys are going to have to start looking at, D2, D3, NAIA when they're talking about, am I going to be able to go to school there? And like you said, if there is lack of participation in those junior college programs, then, ultimately, what you said and kind of what's been happening around California, where those schools have, shut down the football program. That is definitely a possibility if it doesn't trend in that right direction. Now, if those student athletes, they say, okay, I'm going to junior college and I'm going to go, D2, D3, or NAI, and they choose that route. Now that's I think that can keep them functioning. But if they're going there to try to live the dream, I think that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, you're being very nice. I'm gonna be more blunt about it. I believe as soon as the portal opened up, that was the demise, and that will be, I think, in the future, be the end of junior college football. I just don't see it. It kind of, if it follows, and this is if it follows the models of Division II. If it follows the model of Division II football in California, the junior college football in California will eventually be eliminated because again, there's going to be a lot less demand for recruiting at that level. And I believe even at the Division II NAI level, Division III level, with the way the grades are now and the eligibility is, there's no need for me to go get that kid. I can and they won't invest in kids in 4 years. That's the difference. Division II and below won't invest in kids in 4 years. So a kid that has a 2.3, they're not requiring the ACT or SAT anymore, and they can get you in for you to play. Why do I need to go back 2 years later and get a kid that obviously if he fell back in grades or he felt this is a development part, why do I need to do the extra when you could have came here in the first place?
Right.
I could have put you in my program in the first place. I think Division II, NAI, and Division III's now start to become, instead of teams, they start to become programs because now they can go get that kid they normally couldn't get. They want to get him in there for 4 years. They'll take the time as a redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore to develop him, and now they become this player. They start to become the guy that they want him to do. They're okay with them producing 2 years, year 3. I mean, year 4 and year 5, and becoming an All-American or being a team win. So with that being said, if I can recruit you now, why do I need to come back later? I don't need to come back later to the junior college realm to come get you anymore. I think the anomaly is the offensive lineman and defensive lineman, like you said, because everybody always wants them and wants them with experience. But now I think the breeding ground for like you said, FCS in Division I will be D2. Because now they're going to say, hey, you went out of D2, you went to the school, you don't have to worry about transferring credits because they transfer automatically. We saw you got bigger, stronger. You're a Division II All-American. Let's pull you up.
Yep.
Let's pull you up. I don't see them having to go to JC because we know JC, it's that whole process. Are you qualified? Did you take the right class? Transfer from Division II to Division I. You don't need to be a qualifier. You just need to have You just need to have 12 transferable units to make sure you get in. You don't need 60. So with that being said, and if kids are knowledgeable about it, why would I as a recruit even go to JC? It doesn't even make sense. I might as well go to this NAIA school or go to this Division II school, ball, get myself up, and then I can figure out a way to get myself in the portal for somebody to look at.
For sure.
Or I could just go there and this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a Division II, so I'm just gonna ball and play. I just really don't think there's going to be a lane for junior college football. And junior college football, so please don't shoot me, don't kill me. It's my opinion only, and there's nothing to it. But I just don't feel there's going to be enough of a demand there to come get kids out. And the premise of all junior college football, at least for football players, is for them to go there, develop, get seen, and get out.
Yeah.
Schools are coming to come get you out. Why would I come there? Go ahead. Sorry.
So I will say that the D2, D3, NAIA, and more so with D3 and NAIA, they'll still have a demand for junior college football. Now, and the reason I say that is just because, they're always going to be looking at, okay, how can I fill my roster, right? And not saying they want to fill their roster just to fill it, but, how can I get good football players who, that's how NAIA D3 teams, that's how they can change their program. Bringing in a player with junior college caliber, right, who's good, and they can kind of change a program or flip a program, just because what you deal with most times at those lower levels is retention, and so bringing in an older player who's played a little bit of college football, that's going to help in terms of not necessarily having a guy at that position and bringing in a freshman and asking him to play early, right? Because I think one thing that freshmen don't understand is you're still a freshman. You haven't played it down in college football yet. So there's going to be an adjustment period. You're no longer the big fish in the small pond. Right now, you're back to being the small fish in the big pond. And, and so, and again, I think it's right what you said where, what it's turned into now is, if you are at that, NAIA, D2, D3, FCS level, now playing and producing and, being an All-American or something like that. Now with the transfer portal, you've opened yourself up to being able to be pulled up. I coached at the NAIA level where, I coached against a team that had a running back who went from NAIA to FCS. We had a couple guys here last year who, they played here and they're at FBS schools now, and so, definitely the trend and how it looks like it's going where, you definitely want to get in where, you can fit in and make life easier to where you can get film and, be able to transfer in. And again, like we talked about a little bit earlier, transferring in from a junior college to that Division I level, that's going to be harder just because of the transfer portal. And so taking a look at those D2, D3, NAIA programs where I can go in, have an impact, produce, ball out, and then be seen, by those bigger programs. If that's what I'm trying to do, then that'll probably be the best path to go.
Yeah, I think being a big fish in a small pond is okay, and I think kids don't grasp on that
Mm-hmm.
concept too much.
Yep.
They want, they want the, like I said, instant gratification. I want to say I'm Division One. I went D1, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the fit of D1. I think kids don't understand what the fit of D1 is. Can you even fit in there? Are you going to be able to a person that can produce at that level? And are you ready to do what's required of you as an athlete at the Division
Yep.
One level? You know, it's a 12-hour day job. I think people don't understand that. They think, oh, I'm just go there and play football. No, from workouts all the way to the last meeting of the day, it's a 12-hour job that they need to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared for. They got to do day in, day out. And most 17, 18-year-olds, and this even 19 and 20-year-olds, a lot of them are not equipped to grasp that concept and get involved in it. I think it goes from, do you like football or do you love it, right? That's kind of the terminology that they use, and I think you got to really love it to go to that level. But the crazy part about it is that attitude and that regimen is trickling down. It was Power
Yep.
5 12-hour days. But now that's all Division Ones are 12-hour days, and even D2s are now 12-hour days. You got to get up at 5 a.m. to go do workouts. Got to do meetings. You got to be in all your classes. You got to do your workout. After that, you have your after thing meeting, and that's when you don't have practice. After that, you have practice plus a pre-meeting and a meeting afterwards. You know what I mean? So you have all these things that are going on, and I think that the attitude of young people, I would hope, sees the change, because JC, like I said, if they're trying to get you in the program now, I'd rather invest in you 4 years and you be a program player in my Division II and be able to groom you and coach you the way I want to, than grabbing you out of that 2 years, because you've already come with whatever baggage you come with. I got to make sure I get you in school. Once that part, I got to correct whatever bad habits you may have had.
Yep.
Or develop you in a different way that I need you to develop in order to be successful on my team. So I think that's where I see that gray area in JC. Even like you said, Division III NAI, I don't think it'll be relevant for Division III, because they usually tend to go after high academic kids. They don't need that. They'll go after some kids that thought they were Division I, go there and try to play, and then they figure out they can't make it at that JC level, then maybe transfer over. But I think that'll be far and few. I think it's going to be more that NAI realm, like you said. If it's going to survive, it's going to survive in that pitch, and maybe some Division II programs as well. But I think it's the demand lessons, because those schools are coming back to recruiting there. I think you get less of a supply. Obviously, when you get less of a supply, it's just basically
Everything go away.
Goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just goes away. I don't wish it for you, JC coaches. I don't wish it on you. I hope it doesn't go that way. But I'm also a realist. I think I'm a realist, and I think you got to just kind of see the writing on the wall if you're an athlete, a parent, and a coach. With that being said, man, like you said, the portal. Let's talk a little bit more. I want to go a little bit more depth in the portal. And I said about kids enter prematurely and doing those things. Why? I mean, I know it's the instant gratification thing, and they think they want to go somewhere and want to play. But the portal right now, I think, is 4,000? I think there's 4,000 kids in the portal that haven't signed. How do I maximize myself in the portal to make sure I get seen? Because you're not evaluating 4,000 players, regardless.
No.
You can't do it. How do they maximize that level of getting seen? And I know you said relationships before, but some of these kids don't have any relationships. They're trying to figure out what's going on. I want to talk about that first, and then I want to talk about how high school kids can maximize their recruiting. So kind of twofold. How can kids going to the portal maximize it? How can kids in high school maximize it?
Yeah, so in the portal, and I think what most guys in the portal don't understand is, because I worked at NAIA, I worked at a Division III institution, worked here at Norfolk. So when you go in the portal, like, there's no film, there's no there's no cell number. It's your name, it's the school you go to, it's an email address to contact you at. That's pretty much it. It gives you a few questions on, was this person on athletic scholarship? Is this person in good standing? Did this person graduate? Right? But that's pretty much it. Right? So, if I'm looking at the portal, I'm just getting a list of names. That's it. And so as coaches, we'd have to go through and, research each name and figure out, okay, what position does he play? Because it doesn't say position. It doesn't say any of that. Just what school you go to, email, and, information about you at that school. Whether you graduated on time, whether you're graduating, whether you're on scholarship, in good standing. And so when you talk about maximizing yourself in the portal, obviously if you have relationships, those are big. Reverting back to those, hitting up those coaches who might have been recruiting you in the process prior to you making that decision of going to the school that you were going to. And this will kind of overlap into the high school side to maximizing their recruiting is social media. Social media in today's day and age, it's huge. And so, taking advantage of that, there's coaches that, there's thousands and thousands of coaches that are on Twitter, and hitting them up and making sure that, they know that you're available. One, they know that you're in the portal, and sending them your film. And to the point where you said that, not talking about being, what's going on, Coach? I'm on a Zoom right now. No. This is Montell Allen. He's this is our head.
Coach can join.
He
can sit in and join if he wants to.
Yeah.
We can always use a friend. He can join.
What you got going, Coach? I need the paperwork. Oh, I got you right here. I'll bring it by. Are you need it right now? I'll be over there. All right, I'll bring it by. Yeah. So sorry about that.
It's all good.
So the overlap part with Twitter is reaching out to coaches and to the point where you said don't be annoying, right? I think sometimes you gotta be for the simple fact of I got thousands and thousands of DMs in my inbox, and it's gonna take me a long time to get through there, right? And with that, I might not see everything, or as I'm going through it, it's going to take me some time to get to that message. And so if you're at the top of the inbox, right, well, now I'm going to see that and I'll be more apt to, be able to help you, and so, but transfer portal guys, if you're not a high level, guy, make sure that you're, if you're not a high level recruit, I would say make sure you're reaching out to coaches, make sure you have some film so that they can see you, have your transcripts on hand, so they can see your GPA, know what your GPA is, so they can even see if you can get into the school or not. And then, just be upfront and honest with, because the question that I'm always going to ask a guy that's transferring is, hey, why are you leaving? And if he's able to give you give you an answer about why he's leaving, then, then you're good to go. There's some guys who they may say they're leaving, and, with them leaving, there was something that happened as opposed to them just getting in the portal. Then, that's obviously that's going to come out. And so you just want to be upfront and honest with that. But, when you're talking about being in the portal, you got to be persistent, got to be, consistent and then perseverant with, hitting coaches up, getting your film out, and letting coaches know that you're available. And then with the high school guys, I think it's the same type of thing, where it's getting your film out, reaching out to coaches on Twitter, making sure you have your transcripts on hand, so that they can, evaluate you. And then I would say, like in your Twitter bio, have your height, weight, your GPA, and things like that, so that coaches can have that information right off the bat. So once they see it, now they'll be more apt to recruit you as opposed to them having to search for that information. Because again, they're going through, I know especially at the D2, D3, NAIA level, they're going through thousands of guys. They're not fortunate to have a recruiting staff where, the recruiting staff is going to do most of the legwork, and then you're able to just pick and choose, through the guys that you want to choose from. So, but just, again, same thing with high school guys, hitting those coaches up on, on Twitter. If you're able to get their cell phone, perfect. But again, like you said in the beginning, building those relationships, and making those connections, and and then obviously you got to do a good job at your high school and with your play and in the classroom, and that's going to help you out a ton.
And before I got one more last question before we wrap it on up. Social media, because you just talked about it, it's a big, it's a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut. How kids, like you said, they got to include that. But talk about if there's bad things on your Twitter, or there's things
Mm-hmm.
that are suggested on your Twitter,
Oh
how
yeah.
quick that opportunity can be taken away from
Oh, like that. Yeah. So
you.
the coaches aren't playing around with character issues.
Hmm.
I think one of the big things that might have been maybe 2 years ago, but domestic violence, anything like that, those things are non-negotiables now for coaches, and they're not even gonna spend their time or waste their time on it, just because they don't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because if you're bringing that in, then obviously you're gonna that's gonna put their job on the line, right? And
Hmm.
so with that, coaches are gonna they're definitely gonna be looking for the high character guys or guys who have no issues at all, simply because they know they're gonna be able to do the things that they need to do that are required of them, to be able to be able to function at their school. So
Yeah, I'll even drill down to more of a micro level, like even like anything that's pornographic, anything that's
yep.
just suggestive. Um, those just showing violent things on your Twitter, the fights
Hmm.
and retweeting fights, and anything that you think is suggestive, you need to remove it from your Twitter, and
Yep.
you remove those friends from your Twitter as well.
So just
That's
think
number
about
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
you need
think
to just
about
take
if
them
I'm
out.
applying for a job. I'm
Yeah,
applying for a
exactly.
job, and they can't see this far out sometimes. If I'm applying for a job, would the job hire me if they go through my social media, or
Yeah. Mhm.
whatever the case may be. So
And I would add one more thing also to the social media. And I hate to say this because I'm a hip hop head. You got to watch what you place on hip hop, what the suggestive lyrics are, what those things are,
hmm
because that can also leave a bad taste in the coach's mouth. And I
yep,
tell this, it's really hard for a person that's in the Midwest, a middle-aged white coach. He doesn't understand if you're playing something that has that gangbanging music on it. All he hears
right,
is a negative connotation that's in there. So they need to be really be careful about the music they use for their highlight reels as well as on their Twitter. I think, like you said,
hmm
it's going for a job interview. You really got to make sure you're clean cut and you present the best of yourself on that
yep,
while you're presenting it out to coaches. We can't hammer that home enough because we hear about it every three. We just heard about the one kid, the kid that was committed to Florida State. He was rapping lyrics and he said the N word and everything
yep,
got pulled from him. And matter of fact, I don't even think he's going to Morgan State. I think that
no,
was false. That's not even going there. So he has nowhere to. He was a guy that was set to go to Florida or Florida State. Was
I think it was
was
Florida. Yep,
was singing a rap song. He was singing a rap
hmm
song and he said the N word, and everything got pulled from him. So
hmm
I think kids need to understand. Use that as an example. You have to present the best of yourself on social media while you're doing this. Social media is not a platform you just communicate and having fun with your friends. If you're going to use this as a platform to utilize being recruited, you need and you better clean it up
yep,
because I know, like you guys and I know even Division II staffs, to have a person that's going through all those social medias with a fine tooth comb, trying to figure out your and they feel that's indicative of your character, whether you want to believe it or not.
yep.
So
Anything you
got to
retweet, they
clean
say
that up.
you agree with. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any questions or any comments out there that we want to address. Let's see. Question: how do I help an athlete prepare for the portal?
Yeah, I mean, so I think you got to think about all the different types of things that are going on at the school, right? Um, are you transferring because it got hard? Are you transferring because the school wasn't the right fit? Or are you transferring because you got dealt a bad hand, like you're better than the guy in front of you, and they're not playing you there. And so preparing for the portal, like getting in the portal, is, I mean, they just got to go to I believe their assistant athletic director, and tell them if they want to go into the transfer portal. I think one thing that they should always do is talk to, first and foremost, their position coach, before they make any move like that, just to find out where they are in the program, in the plan of what moving forward, or whatever the case may be, because you may feel a certain way. You may feel that, hey coach, I just don't feel like you guys value me, or something like that, where in all actuality they do value you, right? It's just not your time yet. and your shot's coming. And so you just want to find out, first and foremost, where you stand with the, where you stand with the program, and kind of what they're looking for from you, and the things that they're looking for. Can you control it? Because if you can control it, then obviously you need to make sure you do something about whatever it is that's in your control. If you can't control it, then that's kind of where you would make that decision. Okay, do I need to transfer? But I think you need to look at all aspects before you jump in that portal, and talk to as many people as you can. Your position coach, coordinator, head coach. You think you need to touch base with all of that before you make that decision. Just because once you go in, it's not a once you go in, it's almost like that scarlet A on your chest, where okay, now you're in. Okay, now you're cut off from the team, and then
Mhm.
now you got to fend for yourself.
I would also add to that. I think you need to prepare whoever's going to the portal to have that uncomfortable conversation you just said,
Yep.
because and they need to be direct. You need to be very direct when you're having that conversation with that coach, with your position coach, and with the head coach, or with the OC or DC, whichever one you're talking to. You really need to be able to be comfortable having that uncomfortable conversation, because there's some things you're not going to want to hear and some things you may want to hear. He's going to tell you
Hmm.
some things you might need to develop on that you feel that you think you mastered and you haven't, and so on and so on. So you have to have that direct conversation, and it goes back to what I was saying: players etiquette. You need to be. I think at this point, and I'm very emphatic about this, it's time to become a grown man. That means you need to shake
Yep.
his hand, look him in his eye, and ask the direct questions and expect a direct answer. And if you're not getting the answer you want, and I'm saying the answer that pleases you, I'm saying if you're not getting the direct answer you want, you need to be able to understand you need to go up the chain of command to get that right answer, because you
Hmm.
need to have that transparency in this thing, because your window's only 5 years max, right? 5 to 6 years if you get hurt, but basically 5 years max. If you're already getting ready to transfer after 1 year, you need to ask him what do I need to do, what I need to work on, what needs to be going on, and ask those really hard, uncomfortable questions to see where you stand within that program. Because if you're not saying that you're not willing to communicate that, Coach Butler, but there's a lot of coaches that don't know how to have that uncomfortable conversation with a player.
Hmm.
Especially young coaches. The young coaches that are coaching positions, sometimes they don't understand how to have that. So you need to take charge of your own destiny, right? As a young person, asking those questions. And also, I think, like you said, you should be wary. The grass ain't always greener on the other side. It's where you water it. That's kind of
Yep.
that's kind of the philosophy that I know that college coaches adapt. You need to water your grass. Just because you feel you want to transfer at this particular point in the portal, or you want to go get in the portal, again, you might be destined to be great in the stare if you're willing to basically thug it out, go through the process,
Hmm.
work harder, do the things you need to do smarter. But also, I think there's need to be a layer of honesty there, and that's where the coach comes in. But you need to be a layer of honesty with yourself. Is the player in front of you better than you?
Yep.
What does he possess? What tangibles do we possess that's better than you? Is he bigger than you? Is he faster than you? Is he stronger than you? Does he know the playbook better than you? What is it? Because a lot of us just think we can go in there and play, and when it doesn't happen, now we throw up this wall of animosity with coaches.
Yep.
Oh, he's not playing because of this, or he doesn't like me, or it's racial. If they throw anything out to throw that wall up to be the deflective one, on all actuality and reality, it's you. It's you. You're not developed yet. You're not ready yet. You haven't shown consistency in practice yet. You miss meetings. You got to they have to really ask themselves that question before they jump in the portal and start making all these demands and commands. Because if you don't ask that self first, you're going to set yourself before a shortfall no matter where you go. And we've seen it.
Yep.
Guys who transfer and get in the portal multiple times has nothing to do with the staff or the program. It has to do with them.
Hmm.
And that's something that I don't know. The person you said you were trying to prepare for the portal, they need to understand that, and that question needs to be asked. So it's
Yep.
twofold. Ask themselves that question, then they got to be ready to have that uncomfortable conversation with the coaches. Once you do those two things, the investment, if you still feel it's best for you to leave, then I think you need to enter the portal.
Yep. And I think also, don't let social media, uh, don't look at social media and let that cloud your judgment. Because there's some guys who just love to be recruited,
Mm-hmm.
and they love the recruiting process, but they don't love the game, right? Like
Yep.
you talked about earlier. And so that can get you in trouble. Or again, if you're looking on someone else's plate and seeing what they got or seeing what they got going on and what they're doing, you're not taking care of yourself. And that's why I say, control what's in your control, right? I can't control the guy in front of me being better than me. I can't control, his athletic ability or anything like that. I can't control me knowing the playbook and knowing my job and what I'm supposed to do. I can't control me showing up to meetings, showing up to class, and doing whatever's required of me. I can't control giving all out effort and having a great attitude while I'm doing it. And then once I do that, if I've done all that I can do, and at that point the coach says, "Hey, it's not enough," then okay, maybe. But if I haven't given everything that I have, and I haven't, I'm not doing all those little things that requires me to be great, and every single one of those things are in my control, then I can't blame anyone but myself.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have put it no better, Coach. That's perfect. That's perfect. Do we have any more questions? If we have any more questions, I'd like to answer a few more questions before we go. If there's any more. Doesn't look like there's any more questions, man. Coach Butler,
No.
Lamont, man, I love you, brother, man. I appreciate you coming.
I love you too, brother.
I'm glad you hitting it home. We agree to disagree on some things and agree on everything, and agree on most, which is cool, man. And I just want to give a shout out, man. Make sure you follow Coach Butler on his Twitter. Your Twitter is?
It's Coach L Butler. So Coach L-Butler.
Perfect. Follow Coach Butler on Twitter. And he may not be able to get to your questions now, but if you have any questions, please text it, tweet him and ask him questions. I'm sure he'll get back to you. And man, I wish you the best of luck this season, man.
I appreciate you, brother.
All right, perfect.